Our next tape on the Seagal shelf trades Chicago voodoo mayhem for Brooklyn street rage and a highly questionable accent. We're moving from Marked for Death to Out for Justice, a movie that might be the purest version of what Seagal cinema was all about. A gritty, mean, grindhouse flavored crime saga with a villain who sort of outshines him. Tonight we're rewinding back to 1991 when Seagal was on a 3-movie streak of #1 openings, so let's dive into Out for Justice.
Here we go, Mr. Big Balls. I'm gonna take you to the bank, Senator Trent. To the blood bank. Go get my pies out of the oven! My friend, you know, he's a little bit country. I'm a little bit rock and roll.
What does that mean?
What's up out there, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Anthony DeJoya, and this is Movies Never Say Die, your home for a pure 80s and 90s retro movie insanity. Last time in the Seagal series, we covered Marked for Death. This was a Seagal Chicago detour where suburban drug war chaos met bone-crunching Aikido, so this time we're rolling right into his next step of his early run. 1991's Out for Justice, a movie that delivered bigger swagger, a bigger paycheck for Seagal, nastier fights, and a villain performance that seemed like it was fueled on angel dust. Now, it's the same deal as it usually is with this Seagal series. We're going to do a Seagal career backdrop up until this movie, then we're going to talk about this film's development, its production. We're going to talk about what works, what doesn't, its box office and rental life, its action legacy overall, and then we slap a Seagal grade on it. So with that said, let's talk about how we got from John Hatcher to Gino Felino and his ridiculous beret.
I'll feed you every dope digging dive he's got. But let me do it my way. Just give me an unmarked and a shotgun, all right?
As Seagal put Marked for Death in his rear view, his momentum was real. He'd get his first credit as a producer on Marked for Death. This was tied to his Streamroller production setup, and this is also where we would start to see the Seagal operational pattern forming. Between Marked for Death and Out for Justice, Steven Seagal somewhere basically hit the upgrade button and started moving from just being an action star to being an action architect. Thus began the rumblings of him leaning harder into just trying to control the whole vibe. And the pattern emerged: be the headline star, tack on producer credits, and then assert heavy creative influence and the occasional "I rewrote the whole thing" energy, something he pulled on both Marked for Death and Out for Justice, but to no success. Regardless, he was making waves in the industry at the time, his star power was on the rise, and he would get a pay increase to $6.5 million for this movie. Out for Justice was directed by John Flynn, and one of my favorite little fun facts about this one is that it was originally titled The Price of Our Blood, but Warner Brothers being Warner Brothers, they wanted a short, punchy, 3-word Seagal title like his earlier hits, which really explains why his whole era sounded like somebody was feeding action verbs into a versateller. Hard to Kill, Marked for Death, Out for Justice, Above the Law. It really was pure poetry for the VHS wall. Now, behind the scenes, Out for Justice did have some turbulence in its production. There are notes that Seagal reportedly had some of William Forsythe's scenes cut out because he felt Forsythe was upstaging him, which, if you've seen him in this movie, that's kind of like saying, "I brought the sun closer to us because it was too bright." I mean, Forsythe is operating at a full maniacal gremlin volume in this movie, so there is really nothing that Seagal could have done to diminish that.
What is Gino's here? I gotta go play.
Flynn also didn't exactly paint a rosy picture of working with Seagal on this film either, describing frequent lateness and delays. And then there is the infamous story people repeat about stunt legend Gene LaBelle supposedly choking Seagal out on set, which didn't quite end with Seagal crapping his pants like the myth claims.
I tried to fart and a little shit came out. I just shorted. All right, now let's go.
Because if you read Stephen Lambert's book, From the Streets of Brooklyn to the Halls of Hollywood, Lambert, who claimed to be on the scene that day, frames it as more of a behind-the-scenes scuffle where LaBelle pretty much handled business after Seagal escalated things when he claimed to be impervious to being rendered unconscious. LaBelle had to prove him otherwise. Either way, it's one of those Hollywood folklore stories that just really stuck to this production like gum under a theater seat. On top of all that drama, the film went through multiple rounds of trimming during the editing process. It was originally much longer with more subplots and more characters. It was then edited down to be shorter and more commercially friendly. Then it would undergo more rounds of edits after getting hit with an NC-17 rating for the violence at one point. So the journey to get Out for Justice to the silver screen had many more hiccups than his prior movies, but the escalation of off-screen drama was starting to show itself. So what is Out for Justice overall? Well, it's Seagal leaning hard into street crime territory with a revenge spine. It's pretty basic overall, but it's also just the tried and true framework for action movies at the time. Seagal's Gino Felino is a Brooklyn cop. He's trying to hunt down this psychotic local criminal after a brutal killing shakes the neighborhood that Seagal has lifelong roots in.
Yeah, I'm close because I know this guy better than anybody else. I know the neighborhood better than anybody else, better than the other cops do, all right?
And look, we definitely need to talk about the accent because Seagal's Brooklyn, Italian, whatever it is thing that he's got going on here is spectacularly unserious. It's like his voice has a rubber band around it. Yet, on the other hand, somehow it doesn't manage to sink the movie because the energy overall is what carries it and the action is absolutely the main course. This is one of those Seagal entries where the fights really do feel like the point and everything else is just the delivery system, and honestly, that's why people love it. The action here is legit and the extended brawls have that late 80s grindhouse flavor that easily amplifies the grittiness of everything. You can feel the choreography just linger longer than usual, like the movie is telling you it knows exactly why you rented it in the first place. And then there's William Forsythe. As we mentioned earlier, I love him in this role. He clearly did get the memo of what this movie's villain needed to be, and he knocked it out of the park with a truly sadistic performance that still somehow just manages to bring some fun, twisted charisma to it as well. He plays the villain here like a man who just woke up and chose chaos professionally. It's not subtle, it's not classy, it's deliciously unhinged, and Forsythe really was the perfect person for this part. And I will always have fond memories of this movie. I remember seeing it in the theaters when my cousin came into town. He took my aunt and uncle to see it. I came with them. Now, they are a very PG couple, if not G-rated, and just sitting there and watching them in stunned silence as this movie just unloads F-bombs and violence and flashes of nudity like it was trying to permanently end their relationship with cinema is a memory that always brings a smile to my face no matter what. And that was also sort of the magic of people loving to go to the movies as an event during the time. Sometimes you didn't just watch a movie, sometimes you survived it as a family unit. Financially, this was another win. Out for Justice debuted at #1 at the box office, making it the third straight Seagal movie to do so. It opened on more than 2,000 screens. It had a $14 million budget. It would take home $10.5 million its opening weekend, and it ended up at $39.7 million and spent 4 weeks in the top 5. And sure, it came in lower than Marked for Death overall, but that was still a very strong studio result for an R-rated actioner. And of course, like a lot of Seagal's best early legacy films, the real long tail glow here is in the rental trenches. Billboard's rental survey had it in the top 10, hitting #7 on December 27, 1991. It was still lingering around at the 9th spot in January of 92. So if you didn't see Out for Justice in theaters, it was okay because your local video store definitely made sure it wandered into your living room regardless. Now, the critical response for Out for Justice was mixed, as you would assume. A lot of the focus was on Seagal's leading performance. Janet Maslin's New York Times review described Seagal's screen presence as this oddly lively mix of street swagger, wisecracks, and martial arts background crossed with pampered Hollywood eminence, which is wordy but honestly a great description of Seagal in general, a guy who wanted to be both the neighborhood legend and the VIP lounge fixture. So when I stack this one up against his early run, I think Out for Justice just feels like a peak. Seagal as a showcase entry. The story beats are a little flat between the action bursts, but the fights are the attraction, and Forsythe delivers the kind of villain performance that just makes the whole tape worth a rewind. This is absolutely the type of movie that explains why Seagal became a video store staple. You walk in, you see that cover, and your brain goes, yes, this movie is absolutely going to contain at least 3 wall slams, 2 wrist destructions, and 1 villain who's going to need to be tranquilized, and it absolutely delivers on all of that. Now for my Seagal score, I'm going to give Out for Justice a solid 4.5 out of 5 Seagals. The crime saga is a little bit thin in the stretches between the fights, but the action is top tier for his early era. The grindhouse edge is absolutely effective, and Forsythe delivers an all-time lunatic villain. It would be nice to see the extended story that was chopped away from this one, but regardless, as it stands, I think this movie is a trademark of the early 90s action boom, where the action flicks still very much thrived on 80s genre tropes. Now I want to know from you guys, where did Out for Justice first hit you? Was it a theater watch, a cable catch, or my buddy's dad had it on VHS, so we snuck it in situation? Drop your memories down in the comments. I love hearing which aisles of your life these movies first landed for you guys. Next up in the Seagal series, we're going to keep pushing along through Seagal's golden era run as we head straight into Under Siege. This would be the movie where Seagal's fame would hit its peak. This movie had big budget energy, big spotlights, big personalities. It was the kind of movie that just felt like it owned the entire action aisle for more than a minute. So if you're into this VHS era action breakdown, you're definitely going to want to be on the lookout for that. And if you're digging the retro vibes, be sure to check out my Friday Night Rentals playlist for more 80s goodness, and my VHS Vault playlist for those 90s home video favorites that just lived on rental shelves. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the like button if you had fun, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a trip down the action aisle. I also want to thank you guys so much for your support and for watching my videos. I know there are 1,000 other retro channels that you guys can go spend your time watching with probably better content than what you'll find here, but hopefully you guys do enjoy what you guys see. I appreciate you every time you come swing by and drop me a comment or watch one of my videos. It really does mean the world to me. So keep the VHSs rewound, be on the lookout for the next video, and until then, movies never say die.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?